Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go. Hi, I'm Tracy Stuckrath with Thrive Meetings and Events, and this is my weekly Eating in a Meeting interview chat with food and beverage experts. And I work for my company's Thrive Meetings and Events, and I help educate the hospitality industry and organizations that hold meetings on how to create safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences. Yesterday or Monday was the start of June, and I don't know if you knew it, but it's National Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Month. And so today on the podcast, on the interview, I have got Executive Chef and Food and Beverage Director from Dolce Hotels and Resorts, Chef Murray Hall. How are you?
Good. How are you, Tracy?
I'm doing very well.
Thanks for having me here today.
You're welcome. You and I have been chatting quite a bit the last month.
Absolutely. And we've done some interviews. We were on the IIV Connects meetings. There's been a lot of stuff we've collaborated on. So again, thank you for the invite to come onto your platform and chat fruits and vegetables.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Okay, so Fruits and Vegetables Month. We were just chatting, everybody, we were chatting just before we got on here, and, we'll talk about vegan and vegetarian, but I want to talk about in season and sourcing locally. I know you're in Toronto, and I don't know where, other people are around the US, Canada, and, Europe. How do you incorporate fresh fruits and vegetables into your daily menu?
Fresh fruits and vegetables, I think, are an integral part of what we're serving right now. Looking at a lot more of the dietary trends being plant-forward, flexitarian, vegans, vegetarians, as you touched on, vegetables are now becoming more of the center of the plate. So linking in with those local producers is going to be key when it comes to making sure you're getting the freshest product that's around, making sure that you can utilize what's in your backyard versus looking at international stuff. But also, you can hopefully gauge some better pricing as well too by shopping local. Now, up in Toronto and Ontario, where I am, limited stuff is coming out of the ground right now. We've got some early rhubarb, we've got some strawberries, you've got asparagus coming up, radishes. The hot houses are obviously providing year-round stuff, but to get the early broccoli, cauliflower coming out is one of the things that we're slowly seeing come to the market. But right now, for Ontario, we're still looking at a very heavily based import of fruit and vegetables coming in for us right now. We do have some stuff locally available that lasts really well, like the apples and things. That'll do good. But if we're looking for, strawberries, oranges, any sort of citrus fruit, that's all coming across the border. So there is more stuff there, but this is my exciting time. This is what I love. Is this time of year because I'm planting my own fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
So I'm quite happily getting my hands dirty there. But also I get to link in with a lot of our friends who are farmers. One of our friends, he puts out 1 million heads of cauliflower and broccoli each season. So
wow.
Full planting season they're on right now. They have their pumpkins, they have their gourds, they do all their zucchinis and their cucumbers, but their main focus is cauliflower and broccoli, which is exciting to even go to the farm to see how this whole machine works and how they put in all this stuff and how the earth gets turned over. So it's a lot of fun, and it's nice to link in with them too, because I can just really buy from them almost directly as well. So that's fun to do, because you do get that connection right back to the farmer. Mm-hmm. Stability of food, especially with COVID-19 coming around, and we're all working within those parameters. People want to know where the food is coming from. So if we can source it as locally as best as possible locally, mm-hmm. then we're going to have a lot more comfort level for people coming back into our restaurants, back into our hotels and conference centers, and being comfortable with the food that they're getting.
Yesterday, I gave a webinar for MeetingsNet, and I was explaining to the attendees, ask your chefs and ask your convention centers, where are you sourcing locally, or how are you doing it? And, what are your policies and procedures for accepting food and beverage from farmers and different companies? And they're like, can we actually ask that? Are they going to be willing to give us that information? And, how do they keep it? So is that a legit question that we can ask?
I think it's a very valid question to ask, but you might be surprised where some of the answers come from.
Yeah? Why that?
I'll use my own scenario, my own experience, for example. At some points through the course of the fall, spring, even sometimes early summer, I'll have, say, grapes coming in, and grapes be coming from as far away as South Africa. That's where my produce supplier is getting it from. That's where they're sourcing it. That's where the pricing is the best from. So at the end of the day, as a chef, I still have to look at as much stuff as I can buy locally, but the price still has to make sense, if you know what I mean. I can't pass that along to the consumer, or I can't pass it along to the customer unless they're really willing to pay for it. And if they're open to that, if you want me to source an item that is going to be local, that may or may not be in season or on the shoulder of either season, we may pay more for it. We may not be able to get it. And supply and demand may outstrip us altogether. And I can still say it's in season, but I can't get my hands on it. So it's a good question to ask, but I wouldn't have it as a sticking point for whether or not you want to have the conference or the meeting at that venue or not. The planner has to be flexible with a few things that's coming in, especially if they're coming in, say, I have a budget. It has to be all local. You can't spend more than this. Then you're kind of tying the culinary team's hands a little bit to make sure that they make a great experience at the best price.
Okay. That reminds me, a couple of years ago, Chef Matt Rigo, I think that's his last name, in Ohio, he's like, I'm trying to source as much as I possibly can, my fruits and vegetables, my meats locally, but when it comes to like flour and the basics, I'm definitely sourcing that, getting that from the Cisco's and the U.S. Foods of the world because of pricing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's very few places that I could know where I could get local flour from. I don't even know where I can find that. I'd have to look for my broadline distributors to go back to where it would come from. Hopefully, it would be at least Canadian. I think that's good. If you generalize it and say, well, it's from the United States, well, that's good. Or it's from Canada, that's great.
Right.
It's being flown in from, a million miles away. But there's certain things that are going to be possible when it comes to local. And something you can use is you can use signature items as well. So one of the things we opened a property in Indianapolis, and there was a fantastic syrup down there. It was a birch tree syrup that I used.
That sounds good.
Pancakes. And it was delicious. It was like, where does this stuff come from? It was only from Indianapolis. I couldn't find it anywhere else. But that was one of the things that we put on our breakfast menu when we were down there, as there was maple syrup, your no sugar syrup, butter, margarine, whatever. But then we had this as a great local addition. So, and that really, that also can tie into the local market, ties into the state, ties into the city, whatever, or the county or wherever you are. So augmenting your meals, maybe the grapes do come from South Africa.
Right.
I've got a phenomenal condiment that is made down the street around the corner.
Okay. That sounds like a great idea. Mixing them, matching to fit budgets, I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Incorporating more vegetables and fruit into your menus. I mean, we all as planners, there's that standard melon and pineapple bowl that we have for breakfast, and there's the chopped crudité from your friend's farm of cauliflower. But how can we add more vegetables into our fruits and vegetables into our meeting menus besides those standard things? And what are you doing and training your team to do?
So a couple of things we're doing is we're really looking at it from the vegan, vegetarian standpoint. What can we do when it comes to the standpoint to make plant forward more of a focus than it is now? And it is going to continue to be focused, but how do we really push that forward? So what we can do is look at it from all aspects, not even putting crudité and extra broccoli on a plate, but can I incorporate that into my homemade power bars? Can I incorporate that into my breakfast snacks? Can I incorporate that into my coffee break items? Can we make a great vegan plant forward muffin? which would be fantastic, that everybody can enjoy as well too. And then also taking off a lot of allergies, dietary restrictions, and things like that, but also giving something a little bit unique that you may or may not get. Everybody can go to a property and grab, or a hotel or a conference center and grab a carrot muffin. Can you get a carrot muffin that is nut-free, dairy-free, and vegan and plant-forward? So let's push that forward as well too. Now, exactly what you were chatting about when it came down to portion sizes. How can we incorporate more vegetables onto everybody's plates? So what I'm seeing for the trends up here is we're finding a lot of people are making more healthy choices at breakfast. Smoothies, berries, less starch, less fat, less pork, less bacon. So we are seeing that trend in breakfast. Lunch, a lot of people are going lighter on the lunch side of it. That's where I'm getting my tofu bowls, my vegan chilies, things like that can really expand on the lunch side. And so people aren't having that heavy lunch where it's two pieces of chicken or a piece of red meat. I find at dinner, if I'm still doing a plated meal or a dinner sit-down buffet, then they are looking for that protein option. And what that looks like, is it a turkey, is it chicken, is it a veal, is it a pork, whatever that looks like, that is still very much the focus of coming into the dinner experience.
Okay.
Now, things that we've played with here is we did our first all plant-forward, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free dinner for one of our banquet applications for 200 people. And it was a phenomenal event. It worked out very well. Now, it was a specific group. So the group that we were doing it for was heavily based in vegetarian cuisine to start off with.
Okay.
At least half of the group was vegetarian. So I had about 100 of them that were vegetarians. So we looked at it, so why don't we make the whole thing vegan? And then we checked off all our allergies, checked off all our dietary restrictions. And the funny thing was, I've never done this in my career. I had chicken as the option.
Wow.
The vegetarian option, which was crazy. We made about 10. We're okay. Is 10 enough? We're going to have somebody who's going to be really opposed to the cauliflower steak with the coconut sauce and the salsa verde and the tofu. So it worked. We didn't serve one chicken. Everybody had the air event, and it was fantastic. So that's been the first time in, God, I'm dating myself now, probably almost 28 years of cooking. We've actually pulled that off. So it's moving. The trend is moving. And most meat eaters, I'm a meat eater. I'm not a vegetarian or vegan guy, but myself, I'm still looking at that flexitarian side of things where I can say, do I need to have a protein for dinner every single night?
Right.
No, I don't. I mean,
animal protein.
Yeah, animal protein. Sorry. You're animal protein, right? So for myself, for dinner tonight, it's going to be a barbecue tofu steaks on the grill. So we're having that. But we had chicken the night before. So still, it's flexing it out. And I find in a banquet environment, and if the planners can know their groups and the groups are flexible for trying things, then what we can do is incorporate maybe out of a 3-day conference, one meal could be all vegan and see if everybody gets behind it.
And do you think, because there was a group that did that earlier this year, and they had a lot of people walk out, but they didn't communicate it in advance. Do you think it's important to communicate that you're going to do that type of meal in advance? Yeah, communicate in advance. Be very upfront with people that this is what the entree is going to be, but have a supporting structure around it. Say, we are going to experiment this. Like, have it as more of a fun event. This is something we're going to try, but I would highly recommend a taste panel, knowing the chef, knowing what's going on, having it come out. So, so it is a great meal, and that's going to be key. When I first started experimenting down this road of plant-forward cooking, I really had to kind of go back to basics. So French culinary cuisine is where I was classically trained in. You would take broccoli, you would put a half pound of butter on it, lots of salt, toss it up, and it tastes delicious. It's great. But you can't do that in this scenario. So I really had to go out and do a lot of research for how do you make broccoli taste great? How can you make a cauliflower taste great? Cauliflower pizza, cauliflower steaks. And a lot of this stuff, a lot of vegetables are very heat sensitive. So I can take a chicken breast, put it in the oven, cook it to 165 degrees internally, put it on a plate, put it under a heat lamp, and it's happy there for, 10 minutes. No problems at all. If I do the same thing with broccoli, it's going to be gross after 3 minutes. It's going to be brown and shriveled. So you really have, as a chef,
to get back out there and go, okay, what can I use to flavor? How can I pull this dish together where I can make sure I'm serving it efficiently and effectively, so someone's not getting overcooked vegetables on a plate, but then also making this as creative and as fun as possible for the customer, so they're experiencing something new.
Yeah, I was talking to a chef in Maryland. Her name is April's Table, and she's got a couple of clients that are vegan, but they also can't have oils or a couple of other things. And so she's learned how to saute with water. And really? Kind of like you said, after 3 minutes, the broccoli is going to be messed up. She's like, you can't walk away from water sauteing because it's going to evaporate. But she said she's perfected it. And, because these individuals can't have any kind of oil or butter at all. And she has grown that base of people from 1 to about 20.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
I haven't heard of that one yet. I'll have to look at it.
Yeah. I would love to go taste it. She's a couple hours away, so maybe one day I'll get up there and do it. But she said it took her some time, but she figured it out because she wants to feed these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, it's just, it's something that's fun, something that's creative, but also you would find your flexitarians, your meat eaters willing to try this as well too. I guarantee it.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like the commercial from when we were little, if Mikey likes it, right?
Yeah.
Life cereal.
Remember that commercial?
Yeah. And they're reinstituting it with a little girl now. So it's kind of fun. But but I think the taste testing part is very, very important. And I've said it, Jessie States that was on the webinar with us last week or 2 weeks ago, she told me a couple years ago, actually, she told me the story when we were in Toronto. She was given a plate of carrots, they were roasted, but they were sliced, and that was her vegan dish.
Yeah.
And she paid, a couple $100s to come to this dinner. And I'm like, okay, that's just not acceptable, in this day and age.
Exactly. And that's where I think I remember when I was an apprentice, our vegetarian vegan dish was a little steamer basket with a whole bunch of sliced vegetables in it. We'd steam it on the pot and then put a little bit of peanut sauce with it, and that was it.
Wow.
Now it is a complete paradigm shift where the vegan meal had better be as good or better than the protein meal. That's the expectation is going out there. Like, I'm finding a lot of my vegans coming to me, I want a protein, and don't just give me a bean, like a pureed bean or a slice of tofu on a plate. We need to dress this up. The expectation has changed quite a bit. And there's very good vegan restaurants, even in Toronto as well. There's some fantastic vegan restaurants. I haven't been down there. They're not open now, but hopefully I'll get there.
Yeah. Well, and I decided to go ovo pescatarian on Monday. So a vegetarian that eats eggs, no dairy, and then fish. Just to see how my body does with it for a while. But I found 27 recipes on Bon Appetit, and I tried one the other day, and it was a pasta, and you actually cook down the beans in the pasta sauce and kind of make a sauce out of that. Mine definitely did not turn out as pretty as the Bon Appetit recipe, but it had good flavor to it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is like, we always just steamed Brussels sprouts, and steamed Brussels sprouts, I remember they get all mushy. They're so gross. But if you saute them the right way with olive oil and salt and pepper or some spices, everybody likes them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's where I look at my spice warehouse, or my spice toolbox, I like to call it, is I'm experimenting a lot with nutritional yeast, which is a fantastic little powder that is dried from fermented molasses, and it really creates the umami and the body of what our vegan sauces can be like, and what we can really build flavor in vegetables. But I put this stuff on everything. I throw it on my steak rubs. I throw it on my lasagna. I throw it on my chili. It's my next salt that I run with. Right? If sometimes you get items where if you're using a base or you're using something that's a bit too salty, you don't want that salt, but you still want that umami kick to it. This is a fantastic product. So I've experimented with a lot of these different things, a lot of international spices, garam masalas, different sort of Indian spices, different sort of Thai seasonings as well. Because a lot of the vegetable base and vegetable cookings comes from a lot of the South Asian countries. So I've experimented with doing a lot of that to really kind of build the flavors of how do you make a great curry, and can you build that flavor up? So it does work, and there's a lot of great, true, and tried methods that is in those regions that we can take over here and really utilize to wow our customers.
Yeah, because you don't need just a plate of, and I think people think of vegetables as steamed and here it is on the side of your plate, but you can definitely spice it up and add things. Allison just posted saying her mom told a story this weekend about how chefs at events and meetings she organized used to roll their eyes when asked to put vegetarian sandwiches on another plate. Thankfully, things have seemed to change.
Yes. Well, one of the things I do, just when we do events here, is I will look at, say it's a dinner, and there would be so a salad, an entree, and dessert. I will make sure the salad is vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free right off the bat.
Okay.
Soup, it's done. So I don't have to worry about the allergies. I don't have to worry about that person raising their hand and going, I'm vegan, I'm vegetarian, what can you give me? Here you go. Everybody's getting exactly the same thing. The meat eater right next to it's going to go, hey, that tastes amazing, right? This is fantastic. The entrees, I'll look at really doing a paradigm shift there and making it gluten-free and dairy-free off the bat. Now, if I have, say, chicken on the plate, then I can go into a seitan roast. I can go into a tofu. I can go into a cauliflower steak. I can still make sure I say a quick swap out on my end to make that plate vegetarian or vegan. But then I'll have enough information from the planners as well, too. So I've got an idea of how many of those I got to do. And then dessert. I'm working with a couple companies right now. We're doing some of our own in-house stuff for smaller parties that is making phenomenal vegan desserts. And nut-free as well too, which is a great thing. So I can get a mint matcha and an Nanaimo bar that is completely vegan, completely nut-free, and gluten-free and dairy-free, and I'll have that and serve that, and it goes down like a treat. So we can, moving away from that separate vegetarian that, on the bottom of the menu is that one little line, vegetarian entree. There's at the bottom of the menu of the 3 items, the 2 items that were there. Now we're looking at really incorporating the vegetables more thoroughly and the fruits through our entire banquet package, our entire restaurant menus. And it's just there. So you've got the options and you're comfortable ordering, you're comfortable getting what you're looking for without feeling like you're being separated, sectioned out of the group. Yeah. That's needs special attention.
Right, exactly. And when you're doing that, especially with COVID, we were chatting 2 weeks ago about like minimizing our menus. The chefs were minimizing so there's not a lot of prep going forward. So are you labeling your menus so when you send it to me as a planner, I can see that it already is gluten-free, dairy-free, and vegan or vegetarian?
Yes. One thing I know we've done as well, a lot of people use icons to kind of separate what their menus are going to be. If it's a little leaf or a little piece of wheat with a slash through it for gluten-free. One of the things we're looking at doing is we're just labeling what the dish is. Mm-hmm. So if the entree is going to have a little label at the bottom, gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free as well too. So we'll put it specifically on the menus that we go back and forth with the planning team, and we have that available. And then our banquet package, the broad banquet package, that is all listed as well too, with an icon kind of routine as well, like most other companies are doing.
Okay.
But menus, we actually do specifically label it, especially when it comes up to allergies.
Okay. Yeah, it's super important. And I think even with, some planner was mentioning to me the other day, she's like, here's your 4 options. That's all you get. And I'm like, you can't just offer 4 options because, here in the States, it's discriminating. Anywhere. It's discriminating against people who have dietary restrictions. And they're like, well, bring your own. And I'm like, okay, that's not sometimes possible, right?
Yeah. Oh, I've heard that too. I mean, some of the restrictions some of them are a little tough, like the oil. I can't eat anything with oil. I've had vegans come to me and say, I can't have any nuts. I'm allergic to nuts. Well, the vegan diet is very nut based, or keto very nut centric. So, I've really got to step out of my box. And a lot of times I will actually link in directly with the customer and say, what can I get for you?
Right.
There are specific dietary concerns. Myself, or one of my team will specifically make that meal for that person with full knowledge of what they're doing around their dietary or allergy concerns as well too. So we try and personalize it as much as possible. So we don't want people bringing their own food in.
No. Now, what is a fruit or vegetable that you see really coming into its own? Because, for a while there was kale and then cauliflower. Is there something new that you see on the horizon that we'll see on menus?
I still think cauliflower is one of the big ones that's going to still be out there. It's very versatile. Pastas, roasting, steaks, pizza doughs, deep frying. We make a fantastic vegan chicken wing out of cauliflower. It's phenomenal. So I still see cauliflower being one of the main items that we can move forward with. And the nice thing about cauliflower, it holds up well under heat. It absorbs and takes flavors well, and it doesn't have a pronounced flavor by itself. So say if we take something like turnips or rutabaga or something like that, it's got a very pronounced flavor. It's hard to infuse flavors into that and kind of craft it around the dish that you want to have. But I do see cauliflower as being one of still the main staples. For myself, also root vegetables is still a main staple as well too. A lot of natural sugars in, say, carrots, roasting them very lightly, salt and pepper, a little bit of balsamic vinegar on it. Brussels sprouts as well too has always been a popular thing for roasting, and
right.
It works very well with acid as well too. So you could use that, but there's really a big spectrum of vegetables we can play with, and it's about looking out and getting those different products and really experimenting with them.
Now, what about in desserts as well? I know there's the brothers that are in Maine or Vermont that are chefs. They were working on farm. They were in Atlanta and they were using beets. We roasted. I was a chef's assistant for them, and we roasted beets, and they used the beets in their cake to replace the sugar. So are you doing that in a lot of desserts as well?
I'm finding we're not really infusing for myself, we're not infusing a lot of vegetables in desserts. We're looking at more of the ingredient-based stuff to enhance the desserts or enhance the baking of products. So flours, gluten-free flours, chickpea flours, coconuts, honey, maple syrup, natural sweeteners, agave versus white sugar and brown sugar. So more of that scope that I'm playing with now. But I mean, one of the things I have a great recipe for is an adzuki bean brownie. Which is completely gluten-free and vegan, and it's one of the highest protein beans on the market that you can use. And when you put that down, it comes down to the Chinese red paste is kind of where the red paste buns. So, and it's beautifully sweet. It's got a great density, but when you bake, it's nice and light and fluffy as well, too. So that's one of the things I've looked at more, the dried bean scenario.
Okay.
So I haven't played too much with beets yet.
We're going to give everybody a lot of fiber.
Yeah, exactly. Fiber is good.
Fiber is good.
It fills you up and it keeps you regular, so you're fine.
Exactly. It is a necessary thing. So what is, you said earlier you're digging your fingers in your own garden. So what are you planting? Actually,
funny enough, we have beets. Beets, we're doing tomatoes. I'm experimenting with carrots, but I haven't had much luck with that yet. So beefsteak tomatoes, Roma tomatoes. What else do we have? Cucumbers, squash. Both my girls love peas, so we have peas growing in the garden as well too. So it's a couple planter boxes I built. So it's going to be our first harvest from this. So we'll see what we get.
Awesome! That sounds like fun. And you're digging with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my two daughters are in charge of watering it. Morning and night, you're in charge of watering, and then hopefully we'll reap the benefits afterwards. But I also grow a lot of herbs as well. So I've got pots on my deck with herbs. So cooking with fresh herbs.
And I love like touching rosemary, and I did it the other day for that pasta dish. And just your hands smell so awesome after the fact, and it does. It just said crunch it in your hand and then throw it into the pot just to give it that. Break it up and so the flavor comes out. It's really, fresh herbs are so great.
Yeah, fresh herbs are fantastic. I love cooking with any sort of fresh herb, especially like cilantros. Even honestly, I even like cooking with parsley. I love the taste of parsley, especially a nice cream sauce,
right?
Or something even just I love it in like a lasagna. It gives a great flavor. A lot of people look at parsley as garnish. I honestly like cooking with it more.
Oh, awesome. So one final question. What is your favorite fruit and favorite vegetable and why?
So favorite fruit would have to be mangoes. Love mangoes. I love mangoes. I spent 2 years in Hawaii and I fell in love with mangoes many years ago. And I know they're not grown in Canada, so they can be imported in. So I know it's bad. But mangoes is definitely my favorite one. And honestly, cauliflower. I love messing with cauliflower as much as I possibly can. So it's a lot of fun to do that way.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna end this here, and I'm gonna go make. Today's my dad's birthday, and he asked for a cherry pie, so I'm gonna make him a fresh cherry pie. Speaking of fruits, which is my favorite fruit, besides
cherries are in season. They should be coming. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So everyone, this is Executive Chef Murray Hall from Dolce Hotels and Resorts. And one quick question: do you oversee all of it, or just all of the hotels as the food and beverage director, or just your one property?
Just my one property. Okay. We're part of the Wyndham Worldwide as well.
Okay.
With Dolce Hotels and Resorts under the Wyndham brand. So I work quite closely with the Wyndham team as well too. But this is my property, and the Institute for Learning is my home. So.
And that's in Toronto, Canada. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'll have to come back and visit you. I love Toronto.
Anytime.
So thank you so much, Chef. I really appreciate your time. And this is Eating at a Meeting podcast. We are here live on Wednesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern. And sign up and listen. And if you have anybody you want me to interview, let me know. Because we've got other great chefs like Murray that can talk to us. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, Murray.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.